10, 15, 20 years, but it's quite surprising that the very first thing that you started off with connecting business and IT together, because once a person has become an enterprise architect or that kind of stuff, they start worrying about those problems. What was your motivation to solve that problem very early on?
You mean by why this business IT combined?
Yes,
Business?
yes.
Yeah.
You could have tried solving a lot of other problems. So why that particular
True.
problem
Yeah.
fascinated you?
It started actually when I was as a student, when I had a specific class on IT and business combining together, and I thought, why not try it in practice? So what I did is, with some other students, we just went to local, smaller business, medium-sized organizations, and we say, let's look at your business process and see how well it's supported by IT. And we come with recommendations. In 2 weeks' time, we're going to implement the solution for you. And we used at that point, it was for the 4th generation language tools like FoxPro. It's not that technology special, but it was more like, how can we, across this entire business chain, improve? And nowadays, we call those value streams, of course. At that point, it was just a business process. And you could see, if you go to a factory, it was typically a small company with the marketing, sales, production, and then you could easily see improvements. If you just go through the processes, nowadays we call that go see, right? Like look at how things are actually happening, and the Gamba walk, basically. Look at how a business process is end-to-end enabled, and you see, you can easily spot improvements and help them in the transitioning. And currently I do the same thing, right? I still look at how is my end-to-end, in this case, IT process enabled by the right set of tools, the people, the data, and how do I improve it? And that's what's funny, if you look at it, most organizations have a very complex IT management landscape. Or just as a picture like this, right? It's like IT management is pretty complex. And most organizations now realize that IT management is a critical capability. If you know how to manage your IT, nowadays we can call it digital management, right? You are able to enable your business much better than ever before. But this is typically not very well organized in most larger IT organizations, right? There's fragmented processes, tools, data, and there's typically not an integrated vision how everything should be connected. And that's typically, this is my mission, right? To go through an IT organization, see, look, how is your end-to-end journey from a new demand? How do you get something developed, tested, deployed in production, and continuously improve? It's like this picture shows you the end-to-end traceability. And if there's one thing I learned from all those initiatives I've done with many organizations, there was one key ingredient that most of the time was lacking, and it's really about data-driven IT. Understand how data, basically it's about traceability, but also understand what services do I deliver, how is the business enabled by IT, how demands, testing. So basically the picture on the back, how is everything connected? If you can solve this puzzle by creating transparency and traceability in your own IT organization, that's the only way to become successful. And you've seen organizations that have been successful have this, but they don't realize it themselves. It's really kind of a hidden secret of being successful in any.
Yeah, I think I did chance, sorry to interrupt you, I did chance in one of your interviews said secret sauce is traceability and transparency. Actually, true, very true. But you were doing way back in the day when there was perhaps you didn't have fallback on ITIL or no CM practices. So you just started off with applying your own, mindset to solving the problem.
Yeah, I started in the telco business actually, in the large telcos, and they had a model ETOM. It's like there is a kind of business model for running IT. So they have a kind of a reference model for IT. So I learned the practices.
They actually interface with TOGAF a bit. ETOM actually interfaces.
Indeed, yeah. So I was using that, and then I started as an architect. So TOGAF as a background materials ITIL. So I used ITIL, TOGAF, and that ETOM model like business for the telco. And that was actually very well structured from a business layer, service layer, and let's say the system layer. And that was a kind of principles I started to work on. And then I was engaged with a larger organization like Shell, where I become an IT management architect. So looking at the IT, initially more on the tooling, to be honest, what are the tools we need to manage IT? And during an inventory, we saw there were over 300 different tools used for managing IT. That was 10 years ago.
That's a lot more than what you showed in the screen.
Yeah.
It's background.
Like any tool you could think of, right? True. So we started to build a sort of overall blueprint. How should IT look like? What are the capabilities I need? end-to-end process, and then plot the right tools to it, but also the data and the people and the process. So to build really an integrated model, because that's where a lot of organizations are struggling, right? This is kind of background. They have a lot of practices, capabilities in place to manage IT, but it's very difficult to see, what's on my backlog, because teams have their own backlogs. We have incident problems. We also have the backlog of the teams. There's portfolio, there's a lot of things out there. So I started to build a kind of reference model together with colleagues at Shell. And that's where IT4IT came about, together with, at that point, HP, Micro Focus now, with different companies to bind together. Can we build a kind of reference model of how IT in a digital environment should work together? Like, how do you connect the dots, let's say, end to end? Yeah.
Correct. I think I was talking to Charles Betts the other day. He also is a co-author of some parts in the IT4IT. So he works in that work stream.
Charles, yeah.
Yeah. So he was mentioning that in one of his books that he said there are no footwear for the cobbler's children. So that's how orphaned IT was. We're making big shops run. Like telecom and healthcare and oil and gas, petrochemical. Correct. But to take care of IT's own interests, there is no reference architecture, as you said, and it is so siloed that the value chain is not integrated. Everything is in bits and pieces. You raise the ticketing in one place, you do the operational parts in the other one, you do bug fixes in another one, and you want to see the end-to-end visibility of what's happening where you don't have the perspective of that. So this is definitely a great initiative, because I struggled initially IT4IT. I was like wondering why the word IT4IT. What are your thoughts on why the word was coined IT4IT?